Live from Waterford and Dungarvan, this is Waterford at 1 News.
Good afternoon, I'm Liz Reddy. Today's top stories. Political parties have been making their final pitches to voters with just an hour until the broadcast moratorium takes effect. A man has died following an assault at a house in Kilkenny in the early hours of yesterday morning. A man in his 40s has been arrested after drugs were seized in County Waterford overnight. And in sport, Waterford's Thomas Ahern is named in the Irish under-20 side for tonight's Six Nations tie against Wales. The first votes in the general election have been cast today on islands off the west coast. It's the last day of full campaigning before the rest of the country votes tomorrow. Over 500 people will be working in Waterford City and County to ensure votes are cast and counted properly in the election this weekend. Voters will cast their ballots in 171 booths in Waterford tomorrow from 7 a.m. until 10 p.m. Returning officer Neil Rooney says the whole process is a massive operation.
We have 171 polling stations in 75 places. For each polling station there's a presiding officer and a poll clerk. For example, Ballygunner School is a polling place. There's 6 polling stations. So I can have a supervisor. So I think in about 12 or 13 I have supervisors. Then I have 6 inspectors who travel around to the polling stations to make sure that everything is happening properly.
Says the numbers involved on election day and the count is substantial.
You're looking at in around 500 people over the 2 days. Then there are people who are set up the count centre. Then there are people involved in bringing boxes out to Garda stations where they're collected for the presiding officer. So there's probably about 550, 560 people over the 2 or 3 days involved. It's a major operation.
These people in Kilmac-Thomas told WLR News they've made up their minds about who they're voting for.
We have to vote for change because down here in Waterford we seem to be not getting anything. Between the hospital, everything is gone wrong.
I probably vote for who I voted for before. I like their policies nationally.
I'm sticking with the same party. There has been no real recovery. They're telling us there is, maybe in Dublin or whatever, but there is no real recovery, especially for working class people. I'm earning the same amount of money that I was earning 10 years ago, if not even a little bit less probably.
A man has died following an assault at a house in Kilkenny in the early hours of yesterday morning. Gardaí are investigating the incident on the Castlecomer Road at 4 a.m. on Thursday, where a 46-year-old man was found critically injured. He was taken to St Luke's Hospital, where he died shortly before 11 last night. A man in his 30s who was arrested yesterday remains in Garda custody in Kilkenny Garda Station. A woman in her 20s has been released without charge. A Waterford councillor says the fishing community is struggling to survive. It comes after 2 fishing vessels were seized off the Waterford coast over an alleged breach of fishing regulations. The Irish registered boats were inspected by the Navy 70 nautical miles southeast of Dunmore East on Wednesday night. The vessels were detained and brought to Cove in County Cork. Waterford Sinn Féin councillor Pat Fitzgerald says the Irish industry fishing doesn't have enough quota.
To give you an example, there has been years where we have filled our quotas for the species early in the year, before the end of the year, while the French keep fishing and the continental boats keep fishing, and they don't actually reach the quota. Even at the end of the year, they can't actually fish enough to catch their quota. And we have all these, and then we have factory ships operating off our west coast that are hoovering up huge amounts of fish.
He says Britain has refused to offer the EU any promises on access to EU waters post-Brexit.
Britain is threatening to take all of our sea area back. So that's going to leave a huge, especially with us being so close, because we would have shared resources. Now, even going back before the EU regulations and the Hague Agreement in 1973, we had agreements with Britain where we could fish in their waters, they could fish in ours. And now I don't know how are they going to stand up to the EU scrutiny, because it's going to be an EU-UK negotiation rather than an Irish-UK negotiation. So this is where we are. It's all up in the air.
A man in his 40s has been arrested after drugs were seized in County Waterford overnight. Dungarvan Gardaí stopped and searched a car in Leamy Bryan last night as part of an Operation Thor checkpoint. There they found €20,000 worth of cannabis. The man, who's from the Dungarvan area, was arrested and is being detained at Tramore Garda Station under the Drug Trafficking Act. Gardaí believe the drugs were destined for the Dungarvan area. The Department of Health says Ireland is ready to pick up cases of coronavirus as soon as possible to stop it spreading. It says the next phase would be mitigation, meaning it would no longer be possible to contain the virus and would prioritise patients who are very ill. So far, there have been 15 suspected cases in Ireland, but all tests came back negative. There are 31,000 confirmed cases of coronavirus worldwide, with 638 fatalities. The Chief Medical Officer of the Department of Health, Dr. Tony Holohan, says he anticipates the virus coming here.
We would expect to see cases in this country. So if a case was to arise in this country, as has now happened in quite a number of other European countries, it won't be a surprise to us. It won't lead to any change in our strategy. Measures will be put in place to prevent that case leading to other cases. In other words, that individual leading to a second or other person being infected here. And that'll be the approach. It won't be a surprise, as I say.
Students in Waterford walked out of class this morning calling for action on climate change. Around 100 gathered on the Mall in Waterford City chanting "Vote them out." Chloe Jacobs says they're sick of political parties promising things and blaming others.
I've seen so many political ads, and Izzy could add to this, where they're like, Fianna Fáil did this, that's bad. Fine Gael did this, that's bad. Labour didn't do this, they did this, instead of what are they going to do or what they haven't done. We're sick of hearing it from other political candidates. Own up to what you've done wrong and grow up and do it again.
People in Waterford City and County are being encouraged to sign up for free CPR classes. A Hands for Life training course is taking place in the Majestic Hotel in Tramore on Monday next. The Irish Heart Foundation programme provides free CPR training to communities across the country. The classes are an hour long. There's 3 times available: 10 a.m, 11:30 a.m. and 1 p.m. Dr. Sharon O'Donnell, GP in Waterford Medical Centre, who's organising the event, says there are up to 90 places available.
I think CPR training is a basic life skill that everybody should have. I think everybody should learn it in school, and I would love to fill it and make sure we have 90 enthusiastic people who are all potentially able to save a life after the course.
There's a risk of coastal flooding in parts of the country this weekend as Storm Ciara approaches. Met Éireann has issued 2 status yellow warnings for wind and rain. The wind warning comes into effect from 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, while heavy rain is expected from 3 p.m. Met Éireann's Jerry Murphy says people need to be prepared.
We actually can expect 2 spells of very wet and very windy weather over the weekend. One on Saturday and one on Sunday. So Saturday is going to be very windy, very strong gusty southerly winds. The centre of Storm Ciara will pass to the north of Ireland on Sunday, and that too will generate a spell of very windy and very wet weather.
WLR Sport.
With thanks to the Waterford Viking Marathon. Register now at waterfordvikingmarathon.com.
And a very good afternoon. I'm Gavin, Whelan. Starting with soccer, and Troy Parrott has signed a new deal with Tottenham Hotspur. The 18-year-old striker has penned a 3-year contract to stay with the Premier League club. Parrott made his debut for Spurs in December's win over Burnley. He started his first game for the Republic of Ireland against New Zealand back in November. Bristol City can move third in the Sky Bet Championship should they defeat Birmingham City this evening. It's a 7:45 kick-off at Ashton Gate this evening. The Irish rugby squad have held their captain's run at the Aviva Stadium ahead of tomorrow's Six Nations match against Wales. Scrum coach John Fogarty is optimistic about the game.
We've had a number of weeks prep for Scotland. We've another week in us now. There's plenty more to come. There's a huge amount we've got done. There's been huge positives out of last week. The win is really, really important. As a coaching group, as a whole group, we're unbelievably excited about where we can go with the team. But we'll do it step by step, and tomorrow is another step for us, and it's important that we take it. So we're looking forward to it.
The under-20s will also bid for back-to-back wins against Wales this weekend. Their match has a 7:15 start at Irish Independent Park tonight. To news of Gaelic games, and the Waterford footballers are gearing up for another vital Division 4 Alliance League clash this weekend. Benji Whelan's Chargers welcome South East neighbours Wexford to Farrfield tomorrow night. The Daesh have lost their opening games against Limerick and Wicklow, while Wexford picked up their first win last weekend at home to Carlow. Waterford selector Frank Ryan says the panel of players have been working hard to eradicate the mistakes they made in Aughrim last Sunday.
Yeah, it's a big game for us, especially after last week's performance. We were a little bit down in the dumps, but we came back in during the week and we worked hard and put a few errors that we made during the week last weekend, and we try and put them right and hopefully get the home crowd on our side on a Saturday evening. And we always play well against Wexford, and hopefully it's going to be the same pattern on Saturday.
Throw-in is at 7 and we'll have updates here on WLR. In golf, Robin Dawson shot a magnificent 6 under par this morning on the European Challenge Tour event in South Africa to comfortably make the cut for the weekend on 1 under par. Graham McDowell's 2 under after the opening round of the Pebble Beach Pro-Am in California. Padraig Carrington is 1 under with Seamus Power level par. Canada's Nick Taylor leads on 8 under. Sports news on WLR thanks to WaterfordVikingMarathon.com.
Kids grow.